He shielded the enemy's child. Now the alien mother wants him for herself. The corridor lights flickered as the evacuation alarm echoed through the colony station. People moved quickly, but not in panic. They had practiced this many times. Still, practice never removed fear completely. Lieutenant Aaron Hale moved with steady steps, his boots making soft sounds against the metal floor. He carried his helmet under one arm and his scanner in the other hand. His face was calm, but his eyes stayed alert. He had learned long ago that calm did not mean careless. This station was supposed to be neutral ground. Humans and Tellurians shared it under fragile agreements. The war outside had rules, and this place existed because both sides needed something they could not lose. Today, something had gone wrong. Aaron's earpiece buzzed with clipped voices. Systems were failing in one wing, not destroyed, just confused. Doors opened late. Lights dimmed when they should not. It was enough to cause problems during an evacuation. "Civilian Corridor 7, a voice said. "Check for stragglers." Aaron answered and turned left. He had done this kind of work before. He knew the smell of stressed metal, the sound of machines trying to fix themselves. He also knew that fear made people freeze. The corridor was wider than most, built to allow mixed species to pass each other without trouble. Human signs glowed on one side. Tellurian symbols pulsed softly on the other. The floor hummed under his feet. Most of the civilians were gone. Aaron slowed down. He scanned the area, no immediate danger, no active threat, just systems struggling to behave. Then he saw movement near the far wall. A small shape stood near a fallen panel. It was too still, too quiet. Aaron approached slowly, careful not to scare it. As he came closer, he recognized what he was seeing. A Tellurian child. The child was small, with thin limbs and smooth, pale skin that reflected the corridor light. Its eyes were large and dark, fixed on Aaron without blinking. In its hands, it held a cracked data slate pressed close to its chest. The child did not run. Aaron stopped a few steps away. He lowered his scanner and gently placed his helmet on the floor. He remembered the training videos. Tellurian young were taught to flee humans. Humans were taught not to approach. Rules were clear, but rules did not mention what to do when a child was alone and shaking. Aaron bent slightly, keeping his movements slow. "It's okay," he said softly, knowing the words would not be understood, but hoping the tone might help. The child made a small sound, not fear, not a cry, something uncertain. The lights flickered again. A low hum filled the corridor, growing louder. Aaron recognized the sound. Automated defense systems were restarting, but not in order. They released harmless energy fields meant to guide crowds, but to a child it would feel overwhelming. The child's eyes widened. It did not move. Aaron did not think. He stepped forward and placed himself between the child and the open corridor. He knelt, then sat, then slowly leaned down until his body curved protectively around the small figure. He did not activate his armor. He did not shield himself. He simply stayed. The energy field passed through the corridor like a warm wind. It hummed and shimmered, touching walls and floor. Aaron felt it wash over his back and shoulders. The child felt it too, but now it was filtered by the human body around it. The child did not scream. It leaned closer instead. When the hum faded and the lights stabilized, Aaron stayed still for a few more seconds. He did not know who might be watching. Then he slowly lifted his head. The child was calm. Its breathing was steady. One thin hand rested against Aaron's arm, fingers curled lightly. Aaron swallowed. "It's okay now," he said again, even softer. Footsteps echoed from the other end of the corridor. Tellurian guards arrived first, their movements sharp and controlled. Their weapons were not raised, but their posture was tense. They froze when they saw the scene. A human, on the floor, curved around a Tellurian child. The child looked up at the guards, then back at Aaron. One guard spoke rapidly into a communicator. Another stepped forward carefully. Aaron slowly shifted back, raising his empty hands and moving away from the child without sudden motion. The child made a small protesting sound. The guards paused. One of them gently picked up the child. The small figure did not struggle, but its eyes stayed fixed on Aaron as it was carried away. Aaron stood up. His heart was beating faster now. He expected to be ordered down, restrained, questioned. None of that happened. The guards watched him with expressions he could not read. Not anger, not fear, something closer to confusion. "You will remain here," one guard said in broken human language. Aaron nodded. He did not speak. As they left, one guard looked back once more, then quickly turned away. The corridor grew quiet again. Minutes later, Human Command contacted Aaron. They had already heard. "You approached an enemy child," the voice said carefully. "Yes," Aaron replied. "Why?" Aaron paused. He searched for a reason that would make sense in reports and records. "There was a child alone," he said finally. "I did not see an enemy, I saw a child." The channel stayed silent for a moment. "We will discuss this later," Command said. "Return when ordered." Aaron acknowledged and ended the connection. He picked up his helmet and stood there longer than needed. He could still feel the small weight against his arm. The warmth, the trust. He did not know yet that cameras had recorded everything. He did not know yet that the child had spoken later, using the simple words of its species, saying that the human had felt safe. And he did not know that far away, aboard a Tellurian command vessel, Commander Seeketh listened to the report in complete silence. Seeketh stood tall, her posture precise. She was known among her people for her sharp mind and calm authority. She had faced humans many times. She understood their strategies, their strength. This report did not fit. "A human shielded my child," she said slowly. "Yes," the officer replied. "Without force, without command." Seeketh's eyes narrowed slightly, not in anger, in focus. She requested the footage. She watched the human lower himself. She watched him place his weapon away. She watched the way his body curved instinctively, no hesitation, no calculation. Her grip tightened on the railing beside her. Among her species, protection of young was sacred, but it was also expected. Anyone who failed at it was removed from society. What was rare was protection without duty, protection offered freely. She dismissed the officer and remained alone with the image paused on the screen. The human's face was visible, calm, focused, open. She felt something unfamiliar stir in her chest, interest. Bond recognition was not a thing spoken lightly among her people. It was old, older than war, older than space travel. It was the instinct that told them who could be trusted near their young. She had never felt it toward an enemy, until now. "Find him," Seeketh said to the empty room. "Bring him to me." She paused, then added, "No restraints, no harm, he must come as he is." On the colony station, Aaron received the message hours later, a formal request, not an order, not a threat. The Tellurian commander wished to meet him. Aaron read the message twice. His hands felt cold. He looked out through the station window where stars stretched endlessly into dark space. Somewhere out there, a mother was waiting. And she did not see him as an enemy. Aaron Hale did not sleep much after receiving the message. He lay on his bunk, staring at the dim ceiling lights of the station quarters. The message replayed in his mind again and again. It had been polite, careful, almost respectful. That alone made it strange. The Tellurian commander wished to meet him, not demanded, not summoned, wished. When the transport arrived, it was quiet and smooth, with no guards shouting orders. A single escort waited for him near the docking bay. The alien stood tall, hands relaxed at its sides, eyes calm. "You may come," the escort said in careful human language. Aaron nodded and followed. The shuttle moved away from the station and toward the larger Tellurian vessel. It was shaped differently than human ships, more curved, almost like it had grown instead of being built. Soft lights glowed along its surface. Aaron kept his hands folded in his lap. His heart beat fast, but his mind stayed steady. Fear would not help him now. When the shuttle docked, the doors opened into a wide chamber. The air smelled faintly different but breathable. The floor was warm beneath his boots. No restraints, no weapons pointed at him. That unsettled him more than force would have. He was guided through several corridors until they reached a large open room. At its center stood Commander Seeketh. She was taller than most Tellurians he had seen. Her posture was straight, her presence quiet but heavy. Beside her stood the child. The child looked up and made a soft sound. Aaron froze. The child moved first, taking a few small steps toward him. One hand lifted, uncertain but hopeful. Seeketh watched closely. Aaron slowly knelt just as he had in the corridor. He did not reach out. He waited. The child closed the distance and placed its hand on Aaron's shoulder. A sound passed through the room, not words, a low tone like a breath released. Seeketh felt it clearly, Bond recognition. She stepped forward. "You are called Aaron Hale," she said. "Yes," Aaron replied. "You protected my child," she continued. "You were not ordered, you gained nothing." "I didn't think about that," Aaron said honestly. Seeketh studied his face. She was trained to notice lies, but there was no fear in his eyes now, only concern. "Why?" she asked. Aaron took a slow breath. "Because it was a child," he said, "and because I was there." Seeketh turned her gaze to her child. He did not use force, she said softly. He did not demand obedience. The child made a quiet sound of agreement. Tellurian culture placed great weight on such moments. Children were taught early to sense intention. False kindness did not feel the same as real care. Seeketh faced Aaron again. "You know we are enemies," she said. "Yes," Aaron answered. "You know your action could have cost you your life." "Yes. And still you chose to shield." Aaron nodded. "Some choices don't feel like choices," he said. Silence followed, not uncomfortable, heavy with meaning. "You will stay," Seeketh said. Aaron's shoulders tightened slightly. "As a prisoner?" "No," she replied. "As a guest." Days passed. Aaron was given a room, simple, clean. He was allowed to walk certain areas freely. No one treated him with hostility. Many watched him, some with curiosity, some with quiet respect. The child visited often, at first always with guards nearby, then less so. The child would sit near Aaron, drawing shapes on a tablet or simply listening as Aaron spoke about Earth. He used simple words describing blue oceans, long skies, and rain that fell without warning. The child listened carefully. Seeketh observed from a distance. She began to notice changes beyond her child. Crew members spoke differently around Aaron. Voices softened. Movement slowed. Humans were supposed to be unpredictable, aggressive. This one was not. She requested reports from other fronts. Slowly, patterns emerged. Humans sharing supplies with civilians. Humans refusing to abandon injured enemies. Humans staying behind so others could leave first. These were not isolated events. They were instinct. Seeketh met with human diplomats days later. The talks were tense at first, filled with old arguments and careful words. But something had changed. They spoke of Aaron. "He is not special," one human representative said quietly. "He is ordinary." That statement struck harder than any threat. Ordinary, Seeketh understood then. If this behavior was common, then humans were not dangerous because they lacked control. They were dangerous because they had it and chose restraint. She asked to speak with Aaron again. "You could be used," she said to him. "Your image, your actions." "I know," Aaron replied. "Does that trouble you?" He thought for a moment. "If it helps stop people from getting hurt, then no." Seeketh tilted her head. "You are aware that my people may see you as bonded." Aaron felt his face warm slightly. "I don't want to replace anyone," he said quickly. "I don't want to take something that isn't mine." A small sound escaped her that might have been amusement. "You misunderstand," she said. "Bond does not mean possession, it means trust without chains." She looked at her child, who leaned against Aaron's side without fear. "My child chose you," she said. "That matters." The war did not end in a dramatic moment. There was no single signing that changed everything overnight. Instead, it slowed. Attacks became pauses, pauses became talks, talks became agreements. Other species watched closely, stories spread. A human who shielded an enemy child. A mother who saw an enemy and recognized a protector. A species that treated mercy as strength. Aaron eventually returned to human space. He did not leave alone, not as a captive, not as a trophy, as a symbol. Years later, children across multiple worlds would learn the story. Not as a tale of war, but as a lesson. Power did not make humans feared, choice made them respected. And somewhere in the vast quiet of space, a mother watched her child grow, knowing that the galaxy had changed, not because of conquest, but because one human had been there and had chosen to stay. The stars kept moving, but something fundamental had shifted. Humanity was no longer just another force among many. It was a promise, a dangerous one. Because once the universe learned that humans would protect even those they were told not to care about, it became impossible to see them as monsters again. It changed. Aaron Hale returned to human space with a quiet reputation. He was not celebrated as a hero in loud ways. There were no parades, no grand speeches. His name appeared in reports, in diplomatic records, and slowly, in stories told between people who worked far from the public eye. He was assigned to a new role, one that did not exist before him. Liaison, not soldier, not guard. Bridge. Aaron traveled often. He moved between stations, colonies, and ships where humans and other species worked together. Sometimes his presence was requested. Other times it was simply allowed. That alone meant something. He spoke less than most diplomats. He listened more. And people noticed. On one distant station, two rival species argued over shared resources. Talks had failed twice. When Aaron arrived, he did not speak first. He sat, watched, and waited. When he finally spoke, he did not argue facts or power. He asked one simple question. Who gets hurt if this continues? The room grew quiet. That question began appearing elsewhere, in meetings, in councils, in private talks. It was not a human question. It was a caretaker's question. Far away on the Tellurian homeworld, Commander Seeketh stood on a balcony overlooking a wide open sky. Her child stood beside her, taller now, stronger, eyes bright with curiosity instead of fear. The child still spoke of Aaron, not every day, not with longing, but with warmth. He listens, the child once said. That mattered. Tellurian society had shifted in subtle ways, not enough to be called a revolution, enough to be noticed. Protection was still sacred, but now intention mattered more than origin. Trust was no longer limited by species. Some elders resisted. They remembered war too clearly. Others remembered the image of a human kneeling on a cold metal floor, choosing stillness instead of strength. That image spread further than any weapon ever could. Aaron aged quietly. Lines appeared at the edges of his eyes, his hair grayed at the temples. He remained active but slower, more careful. He was invited to teach, not tactics, not strategy, perspective. Young humans preparing for deep space work listened as he spoke in simple terms. You will meet fear, he told them. Sometimes it will wear a familiar face, sometimes it won't. The choice you make in those moments matters more than you think. Someone asked him once if he regretted anything. He thought carefully before answering. I regret the times I didn't stop, he said, not the times I did. One day, a message arrived marked with a symbol he had not seen in years. Seeketh. Her words were few. My child comes of age. They wish to see you. Aaron sat with the message for a long time. When he arrived on the Tellurian world again, the air felt familiar in a way he could not explain. The city had grown. Structures reached higher, light flowing along their curves. Humans walked openly among Tellurians now, carefully, respectfully. The child was no longer a child. They stood tall, confident, eyes calm and focused. When they saw Aaron, they paused, then stepped forward without hesitation. They did not touch him, they bowed. Aaron returned the gesture, awkward but sincere. You taught me something, the young Tellurian said. I don't remember teaching much, Aaron replied gently. You showed me that safety is a choice, they said, not a wall, not a weapon. Seeketh watched from behind them, pride clear in her posture. The ceremony that followed was not formal in the way humans understood. It was quiet, symbolic, a shared moment rather than a display. Aaron stood among them, not separate, not central, present. In the years that followed, the galaxy adjusted. Conflicts still existed. Disagreements did not vanish, but escalation slowed. Conversations began earlier. Lines once crossed without thought were now paused at. People remembered the story, not because it was dramatic. Because it was simple. A human saw a child, a mother saw a protector, and everything after that became harder to justify with fear alone. Near the end of his life, Aaron returned to Earth. He lived near the ocean, where the sky felt wide and forgiving. He spent his mornings walking slowly along the shore, listening to waves that did not care about borders or species. Children sometimes asked him to tell stories. He never told them about war. He told them about choices. When Aaron passed, the news traveled quietly at first. Then further, then everywhere. No flags were lowered, no threats were made. Instead, messages arrived, from worlds he had visited, from people he had spoken to only once, from a mother who remembered. On the Tellurian homeworld, Seeketh stood alone again beneath an open sky. Her child, now a leader, stood beside her. The human is gone, they said softly. Yes, Seeketh replied, but what he showed us remains. She looked upward, where stars filled the dark like scattered promises. Humanity did not conquer the galaxy. It changed it, not by force, but by teaching everyone else that power, when held gently, could reshape the universe in ways no weapon ever could. And long after Aaron Hale's name faded from records, his choice continued to echo, quiet, steady, and impossible to erase. Even after Aaron Hale was gone, his influence continued to move like a quiet current beneath everything. New agreements formed with fewer threats. Borders became softer ideas instead of hard lines. Trust did not replace caution, but it stood beside it. On a shared station near the edge of explored space, a small incident began what many later called the second turning. A human child wandered away from their group during a cultural exchange visit. The station was calm but unfamiliar. Lights were dimmer. Sounds echoed strangely. Fear grew quickly in a young mind. The child sat down near a support column and hugged their knees, trying not to cry. A Tellurian patrol noticed the child moments later. Long ago, that moment would have ended badly. Fear would have met fear. Movement would have been misread. Instead, the patrol leader stopped several steps away and lowered herself to the floor. "It's all right," she said slowly, using the shared language carefully. "You are not alone." The child looked up, surprised. The patrol leader did not move closer. She waited. That small choice changed everything. When the child was reunited with their family, the story spread quietly. It was not dramatic. It did not make headlines, but those who knew history felt the weight of it. Aaron's lesson was being repeated. Choice was spreading. On Earth, a new generation studied interstellar relations differently than before. Training focused less on dominance and more on understanding. Cadets were taught strength, but also restraint, courage, but also patience. Aaron's name appeared once in the curriculum, only once. Not as a hero, as an example. "Pay attention to moments that seem small," the instructor said. "Those are the ones that last." Far from Earth, on a world still healing from old damage, Seeketh's people completed something that had taken years: a sanctuary. It was not owned by one species. It was not guarded by weapons. It existed for one purpose only: to protect young beings displaced by conflict or disaster. Humans helped design it, not with walls, with spaces, open areas, soft light, quiet corners. Paths that curved instead of trapped, places where fear had room to settle before it could grow. When the sanctuary opened, no speeches were given. Children arrived, they played, they learned, they healed. Seeketh stood at the edge of the grounds, watching. She was older now. Her movements slower, her authority unquestioned. She felt no need to command attention anymore. Her child, now fully grown, joined her. "He would have liked this," they said. "Yes," Seeketh replied. "He would have been uncomfortable with praise, but pleased by use." They stood together in silence, watching different species laugh together without noticing how rare that once was. The galaxy continued to change, not evenly, not perfectly. Some places resisted. Some leaders clung to old fears. Some conflicts still flared. But now, when they did, there were pauses. Moments where someone remembered a story. Moments where someone asked a question instead of giving an order. On one remote ship, a young officer faced a decision during a system failure. Evacuation routes overlapped. Two groups needed the same space. The officer remembered a line from training. "Who gets hurt if this continues?" She rerouted power, slowed systems, bought time. No one was lost. She never knew she had echoed Aaron's voice. Years layered on top of years. The sanctuary grew into a network. The network became a principle. The principle became expectation, not everywhere, but often enough. One night on Earth, under a clear sky, a group of children lay on a hill watching stars. A teacher pointed upward, tracing lines between distant lights. "That one," the teacher said, "is where the first shared sanctuary was built." A child asked, "Why there?" The teacher smiled softly. "Because someone once showed us that where you stand matters less than how you stand." The children nodded, not fully understanding. Yet, in the vast dark between stars, ships continued to travel. Trade moved. Ideas moved faster. Humanity was no longer watched only with caution. It was watched with curiosity, sometimes with hope, and sometimes quietly with relief, because the universe had learned something important. Power would always exist, fear would always exist, but so would choice. And once a species proved that it could choose care even when it did not have to, that choice became part of the universe's story forever. Not loud, not perfect, but steady, like a promise that did not need to be spoken again.